Hello YouTube, You're the Dragon here to talk about a recent purchase. This is a graduation gift I got for myself. This is the Bark River Mini-Aurora knife. It comes in CPM 3B steel. I'll leave the full specs in the description. I got the Desert Ironwood burl handles, and it probably won't come up, but it is a first production run. Now, out of the box, as most Bark River knives do come, it was very sharp. In fact, it's so sharp that you'll notice that two of the stitches have popped on the sheath. That's from when I put the knife back in and pushed it in secure. They popped. It's not a problem. Mike Stewart from Bark River already said that they would replace the sheath without any issue, so at some point in time I will send it in. The sheath itself is actually quite good, has good retention, no chance of it coming out. Obviously there's not going to be any rattle. Has the ferro rod loop, and you can carry it vertical or kind of slightly angled in a similar to a cross draw fashion. Now, as much as I think that's fine for some people, I feel that personally for a knife of this size I prefer to scout carry it, usually on my weak side, and so at some point in time I will get a leather sheath to kind of be able to scout carry it. Until that point, I did order the Kydex sheath from DLT Trading, which I currently have on my hip. I have scout straps that are made by KB Knives. I did get the ferro rod attachment and then put in a ferro rod on it, so it holds here, meaning that when I'm sitting down it's very comfortable. I have zero issues with it. When I'm hiking with a backpack, if it has a waist belt, it doesn't get in the way, and it makes it very unobtrusive. Now, in general, I like to give a comparison to similar knives so you can kind of get a understanding for its size. So first, this is the original Bark River Aurora in A2. You'll notice that there's clearly a size difference. Has probably about inch and a half on the back, and probably close to an inch, maybe inch and a quarter on the front end. To give a little more reasonably priced knife comparison, this is the Mora Clipper MG. You'll notice that the handle's probably about a ½ inch bigger on the back, and maybe about a quarter, ½ inch on the front as well. And for moderately priced one, there is the SE3. Now, in comparison on these two, cutting edge is just slightly longer on the Mini-Aurora. If you balance out the handles are relatively similar length, so overall these are relatively similar knives, although the profiles are clearly different. Now, the Clipper is an extremely light knife. The SE is an extremely robust knife, and this falls almost really well in between the two. It's definitely lightweight, but it definitely, with the CPM 3V, has a lot of strength to it. Now, for my personal opinion, to show against knives that I carry with me consistently, for ultralight backpacking, I carry the Bark River Ultralight Bushcrafter, which is very, very similar to this as far as size goes. Handle length is almost the exact same, and then blade length is darn similar too. You'll notice that there's obviously a little bit difference in the blade profile. And then for short day hikes and for EDC, I've been carrying the Bark River Adventure neck knife, which you'll notice is smaller than either of these two knives. This is primarily my day hiking for short day hikes, as it is very unobtrusive, very small, and it just disappears. So between these two, since these two are the most comparable to each other, I have found that the profile of the blade actually makes a decent difference. So when doing anything with wood, whether it be making feather sticks or just trying to make a tri-stick or anything like that, I have found that, set this out of the way, that this works well, and it just glides very well through wood. But it does shallow cuts. It doesn't really cut very deep. It doesn't bite very hard when you're doing it. And when you do, I mean, if you put a lot of weight on it, you get a decent amount, but it's nothing super deep. Let's see if that'll show up at all. Now in comparison, this too makes really, does very fine feathers, but I found that this definitely seems to bite more into the wood, and that's solely just due to the blade profile. But you'll see that, I mean, it's almost translucent in some parts of it, and in general it's really thin. But when you're actually digging in, this one definitely does dig in more. You know, it takes out a decent amount with a single push comparatively. I found that this one digs a little bit better than this one. Now that being said, I have lately come to the opinion that I prefer small knives on most of my outings due to the fact that they're lightweight, they're very nimble, and I'm in the Los Angeles area. So for most cases, I have not found it necessary to carry a big belt knife with me. I will in certain cases when I'm doing bushcraft and I want to carry tool heavy, but for the average hike, backpack, or even light bushcrafting, I feel that this paired with I usually carry a silky pocket boy when I use this one, is more than enough to handle most of my issues. Now, with this, so far I've cut up a whole bunch of boxes, did some food prep, I've also did a lot of whittling, did a couple of tri-sticks, and I've even cross-batoned this type of wood with it, and I haven't needed to sharpen it at all. It's held up really, really well. I did strop it a little bit, but it wasn't, I don't think it was absolutely necessary. That's just kind of me being a little OCD with my tools, but it's done really well. It's razor sharp. I've had zero issues with that. I will say that I've really come to like this knife over the last few weeks while using it. I feel that if it was a little more tapered in the heel, it would solve the only issue I do have, and that's when I'm doing a kind of a full grip, my palm, the heel of my palm, or whatever part this is called, rolls over my middle finger and it creates a hot spot right here. And it's kind of annoying, but it's nothing that, I mean, if I actually put my grip a little bit lower, I haven't had the same problem, so I think it's more just adjusting my grip slightly. But I've had the same problem on any knife that has kind of a smaller handle. This one's a little more swollen right here in the center part, and as such I haven't had quite the same issues with this tool or this knife, but it's something that is just kind of adjust the grip. Now I do feel that the tip style of this works out really well, so if I was making a bow drill fire, I can drill in with it without having any sort of issues. Beyond that, I've really always liked this blade profile. That's why the Aurora is my first kind of higher end bushcraft knife, and the fact that they came out with the Mini, as soon as I saw it, I knew I was going to end up getting one at some point in time, and so when the opportunity presented itself, I definitely took it up. I will say that with food prep, it worked amazingly well. The only thing that I did see any issue with is that when I was slicing up an apple, the kind of wedge that it has towards the top made it so that it would almost kind of split the apple a little more than slice the apple. That is probably about the most minor gripe I can ever say that I've had about a knife, but it is there. I will say that with the DLT Kydex sheath, I've found it an extremely comfortable knife to carry, and I do foresee myself carrying this for a lot of my future excursions, because it gives kind of the robust nature of some of my larger knives while still being light, just slightly heavier than the ultralight bushcrafter, but still being very nimble, very lightweight, very easy to carry without having any sort of issues. So that's kind of my first initial impressions on this knife. I will try to get out into the woods and do a video on it along with some of my other tools. Overall, I don't do a lot of videos in the woods because for me, when I'm out in the woods, I tend to focus on being out in the woods, so I don't do a lot of videos or take a lot of photos anymore. I just kind of embrace the moment. but I do want to start making some content with these tools in the environment that they're most utilized in, so you guys can see them in real world application. So that's my initial impressions. Likes and comments are always appreciated. Let me know if there's anything in particular you'd like to know about this knife or any of my other tools that I carry around with me, and I'll do my best to answer those questions in a reasonable amount of time. Thank you very much.